I want you to stop whatever else you might be doing right now just for a second. Look around. I mean, really think about the people in your life right now. You know, the ones sitting next to you at your job, the ones blowing up the group chat in your phone, the people you invite into your living room on a Friday night. I want you to think about the 5 people you interact with the most, because whether you realize it or not, and honestly, whether you're willing to admit it to yourself or not, they are actively shaping your future. They're molding your mindset, they're dictating your daily habits, and they are setting the absolute baseline for your standards. And maybe, just maybe, that's exactly why your life isn't changing the way you want it to. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're breaking down the architecture of influence.
Okay, let's dive into this. Because this right here is where the theory becomes your absolute reality. Your mindset, your daily habits, your personal standards, they aren't formed in a vacuum. You might think you're this completely independent thinker, entirely in control of your own destiny, right? But human psychology tells us a completely different story. We are deeply, deeply social creatures. We subconsciously mirror the vocabulary, the posture, the work ethic, and the ultimate ambition of those in our immediate proximity. Your environment is quietly reprogramming you every single day.
All right, let's get into section 1, the hidden influence. We really need to completely reframe how we view achievement. Most people just walk through life believing that success is strictly this personal endeavor, you know? Like it's just about how hard you work when no one's watching. But it is deeply inextricably tied to your environment. You are fighting a massive uphill battle if the gravity of your environment is constantly pulling you down. This hidden influence, it manifests in 3 critical areas: how you think, what you believe, and what you normalize. And honestly, that last word is arguably the most dangerous: normalization. The people around you directly affect what you consider to be acceptable behavior. If everyone around you spends 4 hours a day doom scrolling on their phones, complaining about the economy but literally doing nothing to improve their skills, eventually you're going to normalize that behavior too. It won't even feel like a massive waste of time anymore. It'll just feel like, well, Tuesday.
And you know what the truly terrifying part about all of this is? It happens slowly. You don't just wake up one morning and suddenly decide to abandon your dreams. No, it's an insidious, quiet erosion. You don't even notice it at first. It's like watching the hour hand on a clock. You literally cannot see it moving. But then, you wake up 5 years later, sitting in the exact same spot, realizing you've completely abandoned your goals. And it wasn't because of some catastrophic dramatic failure, it was just a slow, quiet fade.
Little by little, your discipline drops. Let's say the alarm goes off at 5 a.m. You know you should get up and work on that business, but your friends stayed out late last night. They're constantly mocking the hustle or the grind. So you hit snooze, you sleep in an extra hour, you put off that project. And the hardest truth to swallow here, you often think you're just losing your edge. You think you're getting lazy. But the brutal honesty of the situation is that you aren't changing at your core. Your environment is simply doing its job. It is perfectly calibrating you to match the temperature of the room.
And as that discipline drops, your standards lower. Think about it for a second. When was the last time you shared a massive, terrifying goal with your circle, only to be met with raised eyebrows and some so-called realistic advice? When they constantly tell you to play it safe, those massive goals start to feel entirely unrealistic. You start settling. You start rationalizing why average is perfectly fine, entirely because the people around you have already accepted average for themselves.
Which brings us to section 2, why you stay average.
The real reason so many incredibly talented, brilliant people stay stuck in life is simply because they surround themselves with people who are also stuck. It's the ultimate comfort trap. When you look at the average circle, what do you actually see? You see constant complaining about circumstances they completely refuse to change. They avoid growth because, let's face it, it requires intense effort. They fear change because it's unpredictable. And worst of all, they laugh at ambition, usually just to make themselves feel better about their own lack of it. By absorbing these bad habits and this toxic outlook, the result is completely inevitable. You start thinking small too. Their limitations literally become your boundaries.
Okay, let's flip the script. Section 3, protect your energy. There is a way out of this, but it requires a total, fundamental shift in how you operate. We have to pivot away from the average and step into the mindset of the truly successful. There's a philosophical anchor to all of this, a core truth. Environment matters. It's a simple sentence, right? But highly successful people understand this on a level that average people simply do not. They don't just mentally acknowledge it, they architect their entire lives around it.
So, the absolutely crucial point here is understanding how they actually apply this. Successful people protect 3 distinct assets with absolute ruthlessness: their energy, their focus, and their circle. They guard these 3 things like an impenetrable fortress. They raise the drawbridge the moment chronic complainers try to drain their energy.
They reinforce the walls when trivial drama threatens to break their focus, and they absolutely do not let unmotivated individuals infiltrate their inner circle. They protect these boundaries because they understand the ultimate, fatal consequence of a bad influence.
Because they know this absolute, unbending rule of life. Who you spend time with becomes who you become. You are not immune to this rule. No one is. You are the mirror reflecting the 5 closest people in your life. Listen to me very closely on this. If you are sitting at a table with 4 losers, man, you are guaranteed to be the 5th. Just let that hang in the air for a second.
Let's move on to section 4, the price of growth.
So let's break down how this builds into an actionable solution. Because just having the awareness isn't enough. You've got to take action. Upgrading your life, well, it isn't free. Growth doesn't mean you have to suddenly hate people or be arrogant or aggressively burn bridges. But it absolutely requires a toll to be paid. To upgrade your life, you first have to embrace spending more time alone. It's the price of admission. Building a better future depends entirely on curating a growth-oriented environment. And sometimes, the only way to escape a toxic environment is to just embrace some temporary loneliness. Next, you have to replace all that noise with higher-level learning. Seek out mentors, read relentlessly, watch explainers just like this one. And finally, you must choose peace over drama. Walk away from the gossip. Your energy is entirely too valuable to be spent on things that just do not propel you forward.
And that leads us to our final part, section 5. Build a better circle. Once you've finally cleared out the noise, it's time for the final, most exciting phase. This right here is your blueprint for your new life. This is where you actually take control of the architecture of your influence and start designing it intentionally. You must actively seek out a totally new breed of people. Find the person who's up at 5 a.m. grinding on their business while everyone else is asleep. Find the person who holds you accountable, who actually calls you out when you make excuses instead of giving you a free pass to quit. Look for people who think bigger than you do. People who make your wildest dreams look like stepping stones. Find those who genuinely want more from life. Inserting yourself into that specific environment, it won't just change your day, it will completely transform your trajectory.
So, as we reach the climax of this explainer, I really want to leave you with a lingering, uncompromising question. Look back at those 5 people we talked about at the very beginning of this. Are they helping you grow, or are they keeping you exactly the same? Be brutally honest with yourself right now. Because right now, in this very second, your life is being actively shaped by the people around you, but you hold the power to change the mold. One decision about who you allow into your inner circle. One boundary set. One choice to demand a better environment. One choice to walk away from mediocrity. That one choice, it can change your entire future. You have to make that decision.
If you are truly serious about building a better mindset, if you are ready to curate an environment that forces you to win, then you absolutely need to surround yourself with the right inputs. And you can start right here. Hit subscribe to Gaze's Daily Motivation, because taking control of your future starts with taking control of your inputs. I'll see you in the next explainer, but until then, I want you to ask yourself this. If your circle hasn't changed in the last 5 years, how can you ever expect your life to?